A brand new and much anticipated Infernal Master revealed today, a new sort of chaplain, sort of sorcerer for the Thousand Sons. Hello and welcome back to Auspex Tactics, where Games Workshop have just revealed another snazzy new miniature. This one's one that we've known is coming for quite a while now, a new HQ choice for the Thousand Sons, and I'm sure he'll be dropping alongside the Thousand Sons Codex whenever that might materialise. Certainly not a bad thing to have an update for the army. They haven't received all that much attention for a while now, and it is continuing with the trend of Games Workshop doing a release for most of the major codexes as the edition unfolds. So this guy's going to be a new HQ choice for the Thousand Sons, and we already know that he's going to cost you 90 points in game, as per the recent chapter approved. People were generally expecting that this guy would be a sort of Master of Possession equivalent for the Thousand Sons, and it seems that at least in lore terms they seem to be right. This guy is a sorcerer who specialises in demonology and summoning, and in particular is known to use some demonic familiars iconic to the Thousand Sons called tutelaries, hidden and often invisible servants that can be manifested at will, and sent forth by the Master to do any manner of tasks, from mundane work to maintain the army, giving their brothers some powerful benefits on the battlefield, or sent to harass or disrupt the enemy army. This guy's very likely going to be coming in the rumoured Grey Knights vs Thousand Sons box set, alongside Castell and Crow. We already saw his miniature last week, so I kind of suspected that we might have been seeing this one this time. Going to be interesting to see how good a deal that box set is. Thousand Sons and Grey Knights haven't had all that many options for big discounted armies lately, so it's going to be quite interesting to see what Games Workshop comes up with for that. As is often the case, like they did with Sisters of Battle vs Drukhari, that will most likely be the first place that you can get your hands on him, and then a few weeks later they'll be followed by an individual release. I'm going to guess he's going to be somewhere in line with perhaps the Death Guard Lord of Virulence. He was £23.50 or $35 US, so it's very likely to be at least somewhere close to this price. Miniature-wise, I think he certainly looks the part, certainly playing up to all the Thousand Sons tropes. Ancient Egyptian space wizards with a striding forward in Baroque power armour. They have been properly creative with this miniature, to be honest. He seems to be rustling up a pair of mini screamers there, and is one of the coolest representations of summoning in action that we've seen on any miniature in 40k, I think. Maybe those mini screamers are the representation of those tutelary things. Maybe to criticise, I'd say he maybe looks a tiny bit on the cartoony side. That might be partly the way that he's painted though, with lots of very black recesses alongside panels of bright colour, and I'm sure we could make a more grimdark version of him if he went with a different scheme. With Games Workshop's more recent character miniatures, they have been offering various head swaps and different options to equip the model, and I'd certainly not be too surprised if we saw a few different options to make two of these that look a bit different. Overall though, nice model, and I'm sure the Thousand Sons players will be happy to see a new one. Games Workshop has given us a pretty decent preview of their rules in game as well. I feel like their stat line is going to be quite similar to the standard sorcerers that are already out, so it's really his buffing powers that are going to be the interesting thing. Apparently these Infernal Masters will know 2 Infernal Pacts, and he'll likely get to invoke them each turn in the command phase, I suspect very similarly to things like Chaplain buffs going off on a 3+. They haven't said how many packs he's going to be able to use each turn yet, I'm afraid. I think there's a high likelihood that it might just be one, that will be in line with the Sisters characters, or with base Chaplains. I think it might make quite a big difference to the competitiveness of the model if there's any way to upgrade this guy so he can cast more than one a turn. Most of these things that go off on a 3+ often tend to be quite defensive or buffing in nature, things that are applied to your own units to make them more survivable or hard-hitting. But it's quite interesting that they have some of these powers that appear to be debuffs on enemy units and not just buffs to things that are in the Thousand Sons. There's going to be a table of 6 of them to choose from, and Games Workshop have only previewed 2 of them here. I think it's quite nice though that isn't the end of it. There are also Psychers as well, as I'd kind of expect from a Thousand Sons army. They are all either sorcerers or made of dust after all, and it seems like they might be going down a bit of a similar route to the Grey Knight Chaplains here. They can do litanies, but they can also cast psychic powers as well. In any case, having 2 layers of buffs for just 90 points doesn't seem like a bad thing. I think being able to mix and match powers also with these tutelary packs makes it seem like they're going to be quite efficient in game. The first one of these Infernal Pacts is called Capering Imps, where apparently a few demonic entities leap forward crackling with power, bedeviling the enemy foe and driving them out of their carefully prepared positions. This one's a multi-layered debuff to make cover pretty much useless to enemy armies, and if this pact is successful, you select one enemy unit within 24 inches and visible to the Infernal Master, and until the start of your next command phase, that unit can't receive the benefit of cover, can't fire Overwatch, and cannot set to defend. That's another solid hint that it will be going off in the command phase if it lasts until the start of your next one. To be honest, that's quite a lot of powerful abilities just to have in the toolkit. Ignores cover is going to be very relevant, particularly on anything that gets bonuses to their saves, such as Space Marine Eliminators, or things that get other buffs such as Eldar Rangers maybe. Overwatch Denial might be a bit more situational. Now it costs 1 command point, it's already a bit of an investment on the opponent's part, so it's only really going to be relevant on the absolute biggest units around, or perhaps on units like Tau who get to fire Overwatch for free. Still, as they mentioned in their article, there are certainly units where their Overwatch is very scary indeed. Salamanders, Flamestorm Aggressors certainly come to mind. Finally, ignoring set to defend is kind of handy I suppose. That's the +1 to hit rolls that you get for being in defensible terrain. Not the worst thing, but that rule very rarely seems to come up in game for me. Still though, that one looks strong, and I think it certainly looks like a good option to have on the table, even if you're not casting it every turn. Finally, we have Malefic Maelstrom. This is a shooting buff, where apparently the demonic tutelaries pour forth a whole bunch of fiery madness on the foe, helping out a nearby Thousand Suns unit with a whole bunch of magical missiles. If the pact is successful, select one friendly Thousand Suns unit within 24 inches and visible to the Infernal Master until the start of your next command phase. When each model makes a ranged attack, you can add +1 to the strength characteristic for that attack. This one's really quite good and quite generalised. In particular, it's going to be handy for anything that's strength 4, things like Inferno Bolters or Warp Flamers. Going from strength 4 to a strength 5 is a really massive buff, particularly against things like say Space Marines or the new Orcs with all their toughness 5. It's going to be interesting to see whether big blobs of Rubric Marines are going to be worth it in the new codex. But if they are, then this certainly seems like it could be a decent piece in the puzzle. If you manage to stack this with some rerolls and maybe some psychic buffs of one sort or another, I'm sure we could make a very efficient shooting unit indeed. Finally, it doesn't seem to be limited to either core or infantry units either, meaning there could be some potentially fun combinations with things like Forge World units. Maybe if you brought along one of those Relic Contemptor Dreadnoughts with the twin Volkite arrays, the ones that melt most things, jumping them up to strength 7 could be pretty nasty. You'd be wounding things like Drakari Raiders on 3s and standard vehicles on 4s. Again, could be one to look out for, particularly if there's any other shooting buffs within the codex. So overall, quite a nice fun looking model release, and I think that his rules are looking really quite hopeful for being a decent model within the new codex. Certainly won't hurt to give Thousand Suns players a bit of a boost. Their armies are really struggling right now, and hopefully the new dex manages to make things a bit more even between them and the top dogs. As always, let me know what you think down in the comments below. Look forward to hearing any other insights you might have about the release. And if you'd like to see more, then feel free to subscribe to Auspex Tactics, or I'll certainly review the entire Thousand Suns Codex whenever we get it. Finally, if you have been enjoying my videos regularly, I would just like to mention that Auspex Tactics does have a Patreon page, and it's down in the video description below. Making all these videos does take a fair amount of time, and if you are enjoying regularly, then any support is enormously appreciated. Channel patrons do get a fair few advantages, seeing certain videos early, regular votes to see what sort of things come next on the channel, and automatic entry to the regular prize giveaways with the chance to win some really big model kits each month. If any of that sounds good to you, or you'd just like to help support, then the link is down in the video description below. In any case, a massive thank you for listening, and I'll hope to see you guys next time.